my name's Lance and welcome to Bundy Bears Shed. This is just a little introduction video telling you a bit about ourselves. Bundy Bears Shed is in Bundaberg, Queensland, Australia, and if you look at the Great Barrier Reef, we're down the bottom end of it there. We have the best rum in the world, we reckon. Bundaberg rum. Oh gee, we nearly argue about that with you. It's mighty good gear. You get a bit of a taste for it. I'm a tradesman diesel fitter, and I started my apprenticeship in 1977, and so that's gives me 30 odd years in the trade now, I suppose. But we started out working for other people, just on tractor dealerships, John Deere, Ford, New Holland, even Zedor, and some of the more exotic brands, for want of another word. And over the years we worked for others, rose to being workshop foreman and service manager for John Deere, and anyway, about almost 20 years ago now we got out and had a go on our own, and we had a business called Bundaberg Field Service, and it did well by us, and we've sold that recently, and but we still own another business called Queensland Tractor Spares, so we sell tractor parts and accessories, but that's got not much to do with Bundy Bears Shed. That's just how we fund the place. We get into it. In here we use the Bundy Bears Shed for the business now and then, for machining a flywheel, or grinding the flywheel, which we're only just starting to do again now. And we use the lathes for making up a tool for something, which is what we've done over the years. If we needed a special flywheel or clutch aligning tool, I should say, or a disc to put a seal in properly without damaging it, that's what happens in the shed here. And before we sold the business, the workshop part, I decided to keep a lot of the lathe and a little milling machine and a few things like that. So most of our machining at home now is it's mainly for my hobby, which is buying and restoring old gas engines, old stationary engines, and I buy, restore and show vintage tractors. I haven't got a lot of tractors, probably 5 or 6, something like that. Engines, I had over 50 of them, but as you progress through that hobby, your tastes change, and when you start off in the hobby, every bit of iron that makes a noise, if it's a chunk of steel and it goes bang, well, you buy it. But as your tastes change over the years, you move those parts on. So in the last probably 2 years, I've given about 23 engines away, just to juniors coming up in the hobby, and just to give them encouragement. And they weren't all old clangers either. Some of them were running nicely, and made sure they had the magnetos and all with them to get them going. So the machining and Bundy Bears Shed, most of the work in the shed is on old tractors and gear, and I do a few jobs for the neighbours, but yeah, I don't make any money out of the shed, that's for sure. But anyway, look, sit tight. I'll take you for a little bit of a walk around and show you what we use in here, and show you a bit of gear that we work with. Alright, this is our little lathe. This is a little Hare and Forbes AL335. We've had it for quite a lot of years. We've put quick change tool posts on it. Where the nut is here, I see everyone has made a nut that saves you grabbing the spanner all the time, so that'll be a little project coming up. I reckon that's a great idea. They're just some of our quick change tool posts we use. And I ended up putting a DRO. I bought that out of Singapore off eBay. That's great when you're an old bloke. You haven't got to look at the dial so much. You can just watch the screen and keep a bit of an eye on how you're going. You haven't got to allow for backlash and that. These lathes, even though they're called Hare and Forbes in Australia, they look an awful lot like the Grizzly lathe that I see on YouTube. So I imagine it's the same Chinese factory, you just choose a badge on the way out the door. But that's been a great little lathe for me. even though it's down the cheap end, I learnt to thread on that and do a few other little jobs. It's quite clean at the moment. I had a bit of a shift around. I thought when I was considering doing YouTube videos, I better tidy things up a little bit, because it's pretty wild in here, I tell you. Yeah. This is my machinist's toolbox. Got a little sign on the bottom. Badass boys drive badass toys. Well, perhaps they do, eh? And that's a little rotary table that I've made a chuck adapter for, and a few dial gauges, and that's mainly just full of lathe tools and anything to do with machining, marking and measuring, collet sets and all that. And look at that, you're not having much of a go if you haven't got a bit of junk in the top of your toolbox. That's where that's where a bit of rapid tap is, and yeah, Loctite and a few other bits and pieces like that. And that's just about full now. I should probably have a bit of a look at oh, that's reams, old reams and bits and pieces, and drills and tiny little metric drills right down to 0.5 millimetre, I think, something like that anyway. And yeah, anyway, everything just gets slid in there, but yeah, I'll probably have to do something else with that soon. Next to the machinist toolbox there's a little milling machine. It's a Hare and Forbes once more. I imagine the same thing can be bought in America under Grizzly brand. It seems to be the way they go. Automatic feed on the X. That's a great little mill. For doing what I do, I run a set of collets for it. It's got digital readout, and yeah, just for the normal run-of-the-mill machining that you do when you're restoring stationary engines and things like that. That does the job. It's a Morse, number 3 Morse taper. And next to that's a little drill I bought. That was my first ever pedestal drill I bought. I paid $270 for it. I thought I'd like a bigger one, so I went and bought a bigger one. And the bigger one, well, it was a bit of a heap of crap actually. So I haven't got the bigger one anymore. I've still got the first old girl. And next to that, we have an Alfred Herbert drill, and that's a 3-phase drill. Runs on 415 volt 3-phase, and in behind this handle here, where you change speed, I've had it all apart, and there's there must be about must be 100 probably silver contacts in there, and that's how they do the speed and the forward reverse. Yeah, you just put power up to it from the main board there, and away it goes. It used to have 3 drilling heads on it, one each side, and I didn't need that here, so I've got the other one sitting under the big lathe for a spare. The bed comes up and down. It's like a milling machine bed. I like restoring old machinery, and I bought that for $100 and stripped it right down and did it right up, and now it's good to use. It goes a little bit fast. 450 there is a slower speed. It has a number 2 Morse taper, and I've bought a 3-phase VFD to put on there, just so I can slow it down a little bit. If you put anything a bit larger there, it's got the rigid frame and all to do it, but it's just it just goes too fast for anything larger. So the VFD will be a video coming up on that shortly. And next to the Herbert drill, we've got a couple of air compressors tucked in under there, and then next to that is a welding bench. That's 1.25" thick steel. I can't remember what it is across, but yeah, quite heavy. I've got a lathe in the shed I'll show you shortly. It's almost an A-bomb size lathe, but that was a faceplate they were running on it, and we had no need for anything that big. so we turned that into a welding bench. The cylinder head sitting on it, that's a charity job I'm doing. There's out west of Bundaberg, there's a town called Gayndah, and in 2013 we had horrific floods come through the whole Burnett Valley, through Gayndah and into Bundaberg, and the museum out there, oh boy, it got a lot of machinery wrecked. And I have a friend, Peter, he's offered to do up an old Thames truck, restore a Thames truck for the museum, and he asked me would I do the cylinder head, so I'll be doing the cylinder head for them. I have all the gear here to do it, and little valve grinder and seat cutting machines and all that, and we're only going to reseat the valves and tidy it up. There's no major work needs doing, it's just with the water the seats will probably need a little bit of care. I do most of my welding with a little CIG Trans MIG 175. It's a MIG TIG stick. I mainly just use the MIG. I'm in the process of teaching myself to TIG. I've never had the need to do it before, so that'll come along. Below that's a Rossi I got off eBay, a small plasma cutter. It's supposed to do 8mm. Yeah, it's really going to do 8mm, but I bought that to do a bit of sheet metal work. I was building a canopy for one of my utes, and I thought I'd just like to give that a go. So, and it does work well. On the thinner stuff it works great, but 8mm, which is 5/16, yeah, well, it's right on its limit. We have an oxy set sitting over there with the gauges off it at the moment. That'll get back on. We have a grinder that we put a belt sander on, and it has the abrasive end on it. I have a little grinder there that my lad bought me for Christmas a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I have a wire wheel on a 6-inch angle grinder here. Oh, angle grinder, on a bench grinder, sorry, here. And that's just for cleaning some of the rust off some of the old vintage parts I do. And this is just to add a little bit of weight to it. I'll probably end up putting like a scouring pad or something on that, I believe. We'll see how we go. Then there's another 6-inch grinder here. Pardon me. There's another 6-inch grinder here, and it's got a polishing pad for polishing any brass, chrome, whatever. And this side, once again, is a bit of a wire brush. Grease guns. You need a few grease guns. I don't think farmers have many of these, but anyway, you've got to have them. Over from there, if I can just get this handle out of the way, is a Champion spark plug sandblaster and tester. That's handy when you have spark plugs in old machinery. You can give them a bit of a sandblast up and check them on the side there and make sure they're sparking strongly with air pressure on them, as imitating it has compression. So that's a good little tool for what I do. That's a little super cheap press. It's only a little 6-ton one. I didn't have anything to press with, and until I get our big press built and sorted out properly, well, that does the job. Only just, but you're surprising what you can do in that little thing. Now this is a set of plate rolls, and the people I bought this off, they used to roll wear strips for cane harvesters at the top, so this can quite easily roll 8mm steel about 500mm across. No worries at all, it doesn't struggle at all. It's a homemade thing. They build it on the farm. It has an electric motor going through an old truck steering box, they told me, up through a chain drive, and down the other end in there. I'll try and get a better picture if I can. For the bearings for the bottom rollers, they actually used old conrods off some vintage machine, and the bottom rollers actually turn in a pair of old conrods, which, yeah, quite inventive, but it seems to work well. Next to the sheet roller we have a small pan brake folder. It's a Hare and Forbes brand again. Hair and Forbes isn't the best stuff on the market, but for a shed like this, it does the job for us. That's folded up a whole camping canopy for us. It works quite well. It does good little trays and things. Now, this is my mechanics tool bench. This has all my tools for fixing tractors, tools of the trade. That's just full of pliers and spanners, and too full of spanners by the look of that drill. Screwdrivers, special tools. That bench, it wheels around the workshop here, wherever we'd like to have it. A few angle grinders, and down the front we have our spanners and hammers and hacksaws and things like that. But that's a good little bench. I've had that for many years, and yeah, it works okay. It does the job that we need. Got a vise on the corner of it. This little machine we're looking at now that I have apart, it's a manifold grinder, and I have to replace the stone on it at the moment. Normally you have a guide, and a circular stone comes up through the guide, and you can run something down the side there and surface it. They call it a manifold grinder, mainly for straightening up warped manifolds when you're restoring gear, but we find many uses for that. It's a good little tool, but it has a bit of a different stone in it, and at the moment I'm having a bit of trouble finding a stone, but we'll find one. I don't know where yet, but we have a parts washer over there with the lead all wrapped up around it at the moment for some reason. That just has degreaser in it, then we take it out the door and wash it. We have a little engine crane. Lifts about a tonne. That'll lift an engine out of a tractor or lift some of my machinery around, no trouble. We also have a Tacalamite 3-tonne clear floor hoist. And we're a bit spoilt with this. If we need to do a tractor up, this is a little John Deere 420 high crop, all fuel. That's one of our current projects. And to put a tractor on a hoist and work on it, that's just great. When you're getting to be a bit of an old fella, the hoist does a great job. I have to pull the back end out of this yet. All the front section is done. All the front half's pretty well sorted out, and we're onto a bit of panel work there. There's a new radiator. We have new genuine light brackets, and it's going to have a nice shiny stainless steel exhaust. And yeah, we have new steering wheels and things like that. We bring, part of our business with Queensland Tractor Spares, we bring Steiner tractor parts in out of America. Now this here's our big lathe. It's a Maxon, made by McPherson's in Sydney many years ago. I did a bit of research on this, and it's a 1953 lathe. It's got a very long bed on it. I can actually, by taking the gap out, I can swing a 28-inch tractor rim in there, no worries at all. It has a 10 horsepower 3-phase electric motor on it, and it's a little bit big for a lot of the things I do, but it's a great tool to have. I need to tidy that bed up a little bit by the look, but it was going to scrap. It was out the back of the sugar mill. It came from Bingwa Sugar Mill, and it was going to be scrapped. And a fellow I knew working there at the time, he said, "Would you like a lathe?" I said, "I'd love a lathe." And he said, "Well, it's just going to scrap. I'll see if I can buy it for you." And I said, "Yeah, well, that'd be great." So anyway, he bought it, and when he bought it, they told him, "Well, you can have it, but you're not allowed to resell it." And he said, "Oh, crikey." So anyway, he ended up giving it to me, and we got it lifted in with trucks, and that old lathe, it only ended up costing me $500. It cost me $2,500 to get the trucks and the cranes and all to get it lifted into place. And at that stage we didn't have three-phase on the shed. So we were always going to put three-phase on. The hoist's three-phase and the flywheel grinder's three-phase. And but as the shed is around 230 metres from the main road, or from the front of our little block here, it cost another $7,500 to get the power on. So anyway, that's how it goes. You have choices, and I reckon I'd go with that. That's our little valve grinder. Next to it there's some synchro seat cutters. They're the abrasive stone cutters, but in another cupboard we actually have proper hazard cutters that are proper. They look like a little file actually, and they sit in a multiple number of them sit in a head, and you turn it around and cut the seats. So that's what we'll be doing the old tamed head with. This is a flywheel grinder. We've only just bought it. We're going through the process of doing it up. There's a video coming on that. I've got the rotary table out, and we should get the top off that today. There's a magnetic chuck that came with it, and like I say, we're in the process of fixing all the rotary table part of that. That'll be a good addition to the workshop. And there's an upcoming project. This is our big press. This is a bit of what we do in the shed. This is a 6 horsepower International M with the seat and all still on it. It's an igniter engine. We're not running that at the moment. I need to pour white metal for the bottom end bearings, for the big end bearings. The thrust side's broken on one. Next to that is a 3 horsepower Famous International Harvester engine. Next to that is a 2 horsepower International Famous. And next to that there's a big 10 horsepower International M engine. It's quite a size, that one. We did that up a number of years ago. We actually had to make moulds and re-pour all the white metal bearings on the big end. Had to do butterfly shafts, they were quite warm. We had to make the valves and make the fuel tanks and all that. Did a lot of work to that, but it runs nicely. These three engines, the fellas at Kingaroy Vintage Machinery Club in September are having a bit of their annual rally, and they've asked me to bring these across. So the 2 red ones and the green one will go across there. Just down the front there's a little 2 horsepower United. I run a little hay baler with that. And looking in there, that's my little hay baler. I made that. I've got a series of photos I took while I was making it. I didn't even own a video camera back then. So we'll probably put up a bit of a slideshow, and I'll have a couple of videos of that working. So we'll probably show you a bit of that. Over the back's a Crosley KK. That's a hot tube engine. You've got to have a little flame under it all the time to keep it going. Yeah, we'll probably make that high tension, but we won't wreck it so it can't be hot tube again. We'll just make a couple of mods. When you take it out on display, because it's not working hard, they're a bit hard to keep going. You get a bit of a breeze and they cool down too much, so we'll be dealing with that. This is an International Harvester, 3 horsepower, non-Perel. Yeah, I did that up quite a number of years ago. There'll be a video on that. I haven't run that for a few years, and it's needing a run, so we'll probably document that. Over the back here, we have a liquid cooled bandsaw, around 7 inches circular cut, which is plenty for most of the stuff that we do in the shed. Well, every shed needs a bit of storage. I have a couple of old fridges there. There's my little bike. I'm getting real good on that. I should have the trainer wheels off soon. floor jacks. Plenty of stools around. I've got a lot of friends and we do a lot of sitting and talking in the shed. Sometimes we're not doing much at all. Just bits of steel, bits of brass. Actually they're just hex and round. Everyone has a bolt pin. That's mine. And yeah, just shelving with taps and dies and die handles and hydraulic fittings and little old stick welder, gasket materials, International Harvester oilers. There are a lot of flywheels. That's when we're doing a bit of casting. Some flywheels, some International M parts. Aluminum, you fellas in America would call it. We call it aluminium over here. Brass. More cupboards. And that's another one of the benches. That's a bench where there's only a couple of little clean spots on it. Flat places in workshops. Shouldn't have them, should you? Underneath more storage. And when we come over to the door here, that'll give you a bit of an idea of our working space. Way up the far corner up there is where the lathes and the mill and the compressor are. The hoist over here. And engines. And if we turn right around, that's an old 28 Chev. Work in progress. Firefighter's cart. Work and play. That's a caravan, the back comes down and we can put a couple of engines in it and go to a show. And up this end of the shed, geez, Junk City. A dial engine. They're actually a round rod Galloway. Next to that there's a 4-horse famous hopper cooled, a Lister with all the pumps for a tank. A lot of little International M engines. This fella here is a Crosley KK. I've had new gas valves and hot tubes cast for that. A big double bag chaff cutter that we've donated to the Kingaroy Vintage Machinery Club. Hopefully they'll come and get it soon. And just more oil and storage. And this is a junk end. Probably not junk so much. This is where everything goes when I don't know where to put it. We just slide it in there. Well, there you go. That's a bit of a walk around Bundy Bears Shed. I hope you enjoy the videos coming up. I've lived shed life here for many years. Adam had it on his side about shed life on his new shirts, and I thought, I've been doing that for years myself. There was nothing we had a name for, it's just I always went to the shed. And I never ever thought for a moment that anyone would be interested in what we did in the shed. It was just restoring stuff and yeah, just getting on with things, having a bit of R&R away from work and all that. So, you know, hopefully we can keep it entertaining, and there's bits and pieces we get up to that you'll see, and we'll video pretty well most of it nowadays. There's always been something going on in the shed. Like, for years and years we're always in projects and doing something, and so the same old work is going to continue. You know, we'll do things up, we'll machine things, we'll do whatever comes our way, whatever needs doing, and we'll film it. But yeah, it's good that people are interested. I'm interested in what other people are doing in their places, and yeah, well, probably people are interested in what I'm doing here, but one time I would have thought they'd want to see what I'm doing. But anyway, welcome aboard, and yeah, stay tuned. We'll see if we can keep it entertaining and relevant. Catch you later, eh?